I think also a challenge is that sometimes teens don't really get the mentorship or the guidance that they need. And usually what I've learned a lot in my life is that we become the people that we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
And we become kind of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with most in our life. And so sometimes as teens, we don't have really the opportunity to surround ourselves with the people that we want when we're going through school. We're kind of put into a certain group, and so we almost become the people that we surround ourselves with, and sometimes that's not who we truly are.
So, you mean to say choosing friends and choosing peers is a really important part of being a teenager?
Absolutely, yeah.
How would you recommend someone to choose friends when they are means peers we can't choose, we are put into peers, but friends can be chosen? What would be your recommendation on how to choose a friend?
I think it's just getting really clear on what that person wants in their life and what they want to learn, and surrounding themselves with friends who they can learn from, and that they and choosing those friends to the best of their ability. We don't have to spend time with a lot of people. We can spend time with a select number of people, and when we get our lunch hour breaks and after school and extracurricular activities, we can choose the type of people that we want to be spending our time with, that we want to be learning from, that we want to be associating with. So I think that someone who's a teenager really needs to choose call it their best friend, or the person that they want to be around the most. They choose that person and really choose to be around that person as much as possible. And so I think that's important for sure.
And what would be your take on dealing with peer pressure?
I think that it needs to be something that, as a community, every single community, and I would call a school a community, every single community needs to be open about that and have agreements, really clear agreements in place at the start of the year or whenever it is. And as long as there's agreements in place and everyone understands and agrees to them, then that should be able to help out a lot with those types of situations.
Well, being a teenager, we always want to be popular and accepted and loved. So we tend to do things which the so-called popular kids do. But sometimes we turn up doing some things that we should not have done. So, how to control such a situation if you are in such a situation?
How do you control it?
How do you act, or how do you, manage things when you are in such a situation? You are doing things wrong. You're doing them wrong. How would you take control of your life?
Well, I think everyone has control over what they're doing. Sometimes people are unaware of, what's wrong and what's right, and oftentimes different people agree on or agree on different things being right. So what I think is right might be completely different from what you think is right, and that can depend on, I think, on religion. It can depend on a whole factor of different things. And so the important thing is that if everyone thinks if people believe or think that different things are right or wrong, that's why I think that there needs to be those agreements in place, so that when someone is stepping outside of those agreements, other people can let them know, because sometimes they'll be completely unaware that they're doing something that is wrong.
Okay. And what would be your take on, what would be your definition for defining responsibility for teenagers?
For teenagers, defining responsibility. I think it would just be, responsibility is the ability to respond. So what I mean by that is that anytime someone has the ability to respond to a certain situation or circumstance, and they have the ability to do that, then they should respond in what is agreed upon being the best way possible. So I'll give you an example of that. Is that, if someone, for instance, in school they teach you to show up in the morning, be on time, leave when the bell rings, things like that. Well, that's one of the agreements, and one of the things that people have a responsibility to do. It's to show up on time, to be there for the class, and to be there when the bell rings and they leave. So they have the responsibility to do those things. Treating other people with respect, that is something that they have the responsibility. They have the ability to do that, and so they should. And so those are all agreements that should be put in place. Treating other people with respect, being kind, being open, being considerate, all those types of things.
So you mean to say it all runs around the boundary of drawing, limits to everything and drawing limits to every person in your life.
Yeah, and it's being clear about agreements, being clear about we'll call it expectations or rules or agreements. It's being clear about all of those and making sure everyone's on the same page. And so sometimes I think school systems do a good job of that. Sometimes they don't. And what happens is, if you get into a community, people's agreements tend to be different, and the challenge with that is that if everyone has different agreements, then no one knows what's right and what's wrong. And so what's wrong to one person might be right to another. So I think it's important for any type of school system or any.
Okay, so school plays an important role, but schools mostly don't really take on that role as much.
Because it allows everyone in that community to be able to be themselves, to be the best that they can be fully expressed the way that they want to to live their life the way that they want to, and to feel best about their life.
Okay, so means school plays an important role, but schools don't really take on that role as much as they should.
Right.
And the teachers do have a very personal contact with the students, but they don't really tend to be so interested in looking into the personal life, not exactly personal life, the personal well-being of students. It's all about always developing the academic skills and not the spiritual skills or the social skills. What would you say for those students who are dealing with such teachers who are not bothered about them?
I think not just the teachers. I think society and our schooling systems and the system in general needs to be a lot better and improve around the world. And I can only speak from my experience, but I think that school systems, and definitely from my perspective, in my experience, could have done a lot better at opening my eyes to a lot of the different things that I've learned now that I'm out of the school system. And I think that should be something that's taken on by the teachers and stuff like that. So I'll give you an example. Spiritual development, that would be huge, like teaching the kids about meditation and stuff like that. And self-awareness and personal development and financial development and financial, call it financial IQ, financial intelligence. So these are different things that should be implemented into the school system. And maybe it's not a whole class on personal development or a whole class on financial intelligence, but it's a couple hours. Maybe it's a couple hours a month. We spend so much time at school that if these types of information, this type of information, isn't being implemented in the school system, then it's a little bit, we're kind of leaving the teens that are going through it, we're leaving them to experience, we're not giving them the best possible education and information that we could be, in my opinion, to best help them for what they're going to go through when they get out of school.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Absolutely. it's just a great opportunity to meet a lot of other people, great opportunity to learn, great opportunity to learn what were never taught in high school. I think education is so important, and the more I learn that, the more education I want to get. It's just so important to understand education, and it kind of anything we can do to get the higher perspective or higher ability to think on a better, maybe not better, but a higher level, the more that sets us up to not only do better in our lives, but to experience life in a whole different way, and to be able to take on great opportunities, things like that.